Alright folks, well I have a video that's going to be relatively short because I really don't want to get into great detail on this, but there's a lot of people that are still unaware of some of this stuff, and so I thought I just needed to bring it up, mention it, put it out there, give you guys some points of data and some breadcrumbs that you can follow if you're interested in this, if you've never heard of this before. Um, Understand that there is an oligarchy that rules over this world system. Um, as a Bible believer, that I hold to a biblical worldview. The Bible's very clear that God created the nations. There's a reason for that. And Satan stands in opposition to everything that God does. And right now we have a globalist movement. And globalism is all about destroying the autonomy of nations and bringing them into a new world order fold so that there will be one hierarchy. And I use that term intentionally because it's a term that occult secret societies use to describe the power structure in the spiritual realm. Um, there are principalities and powers in the spiritual realm, and these principalities and powers answer to Satan. And this is one of the meanings behind the Baphomet, as above, so below. Uh, these evil spiritual powers are seeking to recreate those same power structures on Earth. And one way that they intend to do this is this creation of ultimately a one world order. And that is where history is going. This movement has been going on arguably for thousands of years, really, but in the modern era, at least for 150 years. And if you don't believe me on that, you can, read some of the works. There's a nonfiction trilogy by H.G. Wells, for example, The New World Order, The Open Conspiracy, and The Anticipations. Interesting stuff about where he thought things were going and what he thought, needed to happen in order to elevate humanity and so forth and take us into the future. Understand that these oligarchy is just a rule over the many by the few. That the oligarchy, you could call them many things. You could call them Illuminati bloodlines, and that certainly would be a correct way to look at it, although the term Illuminati itself is a little bit outdated. The idea behind it is certainly still completely 100% valid, and built into that term Illuminati is the idea of enlightened ones or illumination. Um, Lucifer being one of the shining one, being one of the names of Satan, who does present himself as an angel of light at times. So there is that connection there. And those who are members of this oligarchy in the inner circles now understand that they do promote things like secularism, atheism, communism, which tends to be a secular system. They do promote these things as means of control over the masses, but they themselves are religious. They're Luciferians. They hold to a Luciferian ideology, and that can mean two different things. We could mean Luciferian um, in a sense of enlightenment, human enlightenment. Uh, Humans achieving uh, apotheosis or a godlike status through their own efforts without God. But then there is the Luciferianism as an actual religion where they do actually acknowledge Lucifer as a light bringer, as a patron, as a benefactor or a Promethean figure. Um, and so both of those connotations can be there either individually or even combined. But those who rule over us, they do hold to a Luciferian ideology and understand that these people, God has laid out from the very beginning, He laid out marriage, one man, one woman for life, and they're supposed to be faithful to each other sexually. Understand that as Satan stands in opposition to anything that God has established, those who rule over us, they're not marrying people. These are orgy people, and sex magic is part of the secret societies, of many secret societies. It's something that goes on within Masonic lodges and other secret societies and mystery religions. Blood and sex magic. And so these people, they're not marrying people. However, you will often see them in marriages. Why is that? Because they want to appear to be moral, normal human beings. But if you really scrutinize their marriage relationships, you can see the rot pretty easily in these oligarchs. And it doesn't take a lot of digging before you can see behind the scenes to some of the things that are going on there. Um, Homosexuality and transgenderism are a part of that, as well as all manner of, you know, spouse swapping and promiscuity and like I said, these are orgy people. They believe in, well, from the writings of, I believe it was Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma, he talks about the Freemason being the epitome of all broadness. And, you know, we have Broadway. What is the Broadway? Well, this is a biblical reference. Christ said that there's a broad way that leads to hell, and there's a narrow way that leads to heaven. And most people are going to take that broad way. Specifically, though, in context, what Pike meant in Morals and Dogma about the broad way was that Freemason and these enlightened Luciferians, they are the epitome of moral broadness. In other words, they don't have constraints, they don't have boundaries. They are free Masons. They are free to do whatever they want, especially and including sexually. And these are very two-faced people. They know that what they're doing is evil and in opposition to God and decency and morality. If they thought it was okay, they wouldn't be so secretive about it. But they are. And there's a lot of very interesting things going on in the shadows. Specifically, I wanted to point out this video, which I came across today, in which I've been familiar with this particular subject for a while. Bridget Macron is a man. Macron is I forget exactly, his prime minister, I think, is his official, or maybe president. I think it is actually president in France. But president of France is this guy Macron, and Bridget Macron is the first lady. I'll use that in quotes, who is significantly older than Macron. They most likely had a questionable relationship because they apparently met when Macron was um, underage, and she, I use that in quotations, is much older than him. There's a lot of questionable things going on there right on the surface level, but then when you start digging into it, as this reporter lays out in this excellent video, which you should watch if you have not heard this before, that it does seem like Bridget Macron may be a transgender, may actually be a man. There's a lot of evidence to that. And this is not the only situation of, you know, sexual moral deviancy in the oligarchy, those who rule over us. And understand, these aren't elected people. These are people that the hidden hand is manipulating elections and the political systems. And these are people who get installed to power. And evil birds of a feather flock together. There are so many connections between royal families and dictators and rulers who somehow, in supposedly free societies, free democratic societies, manage to make it into positions of power. There's all these ties between these people, and it's highly questionable. Really interesting when you start looking into it. As I said, this video here, which is on Taboo Conspiracy, I think this is Taboo Conspiracy 3. Looks like it's just called Taboo Conspiracy. This fellow in particular has a lot of really good stuff on his channel. He's been shut down several times. As always, take everything with a grain of salt and think through it on your own. But this video is a great starting point if you're interested in the whole Bridget Macron situation. And if you follow the news, you're probably aware that there has been talk that Macron may have had a homosexual fling or relationship or man crush on Trudeau of Canada. Now, Trudeau is interesting because it seems that he's actually the love child of Fidel Castro, communist dictator. And this Medium.com article is another one that you should absolutely look up and research. Um, yeah, I am 100% certain that Trudeau is the love child of communist dictator Fidel Castro. And that makes you ask some questions. How is it that these people keep popping up into positions of power? Well, they're not getting elected, they're getting selected and installed to rule over us. Why? Because there is a global, yeah, I used the word. There is a global conspiracy. I know I don't believe that we live on a globe. You guys know that. But there is a worldwide conspiracy to move societies towards globalism, to put all nations under the umbrella of a one world unitarian government. Um, the UN and the WHO, the World Health Organization, will be used as instruments of that entity. And there are many different, the World Economic Forum. There's many different arms of that entity. Uh, but this article and this video are excellent. You should definitely read the Medium.com article, and you should watch the video if you're interested in this at all, and if you are not familiar with this subject already. I'm going to show you a few other things that relate to this. So we have this fellow, David DePape. You remember Paul Pelosi's Hammer Time story that ended up in the news for quite a while and then was basically covered up. Supposedly, this guy broke into the house of Nancy Pelosi's husband and attacked him with a hammer. Um, really, what was going on here, if you read between the lines and looked at the breadcrumbs, um, Paul Pelosi's a closet homosexual, is what's going on there. And, Hammer Time was not a violent home robbery. Hammer Time was a little tryst gone wrong, is really what was going on there. And I just had reference to this. I've not watched this movie. I don't intend to. Um, but, it gets talked about quite a lot in truther circles. Kubrick definitely knew about a lot of things that were going on. He certainly was very aware of. Well, anyway, this video that he produced, his last one before his death, Eyes Wide Shut. It's about secret societies, sex cults, orgies, and their connection to power, people in positions of power around the world. A lot of big names in here: Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman. Um, I'm not going to recommend that you actually watch the video itself, but maybe you should read the Wikipedia article and do a little digging on the background of this video, because this is actually disclosure of our world system and some of the things going on behind the scenes. Yes, there's been talk about Michelle Obama being actually Big Mike, and a transgender homosexual. Here's an interesting little social media post by former fake President Barack Obama, who was probably not even eligible to be President of the United States of America. Again, another person most likely installed. We certainly know that in 2020, Joe Biden was installed. Um, but anyway, Barack Obama writes this on Transgender Day of Visibility. Michelle and I want every trans person in America and across the world to know that we see you and we stand with you. Oh my. Well, that's certainly no surprise to me. So I had this conversation with some of my dad's family members. I want to say about a year ago, because they know that I'm, a truther and kind of digging into all this stuff going on behind the scenes. And they asked me, well, had you ever heard that Big Mike was actually a man? Michelle Obama is actually a man, transgender. And I told him I'd seen a lot of evidence pointing in that direction. I know a lot of truthers who think that that is actually the case. And if I had to say yes or no on that, I lean to the yes. I think Michelle Obama most likely is a transgender. Uh, trans. I get so confused. Would it would it be a trans man? I guess a trans woman. I guess Big Mike, Michelle Obama is a trans woman, which means a man pretending to be a woman. Anyways, whatever. I told them that based on what I know about how the world works, about human nature, about these people who rule over us, um, that my gut instinct would be that yeah, I would not be surprised at all if that were 100% revealed and proven to be true. It wouldn't surprise me a bit if Michelle Obama is actually Big Mike Obama. That would not be surprising at all. We have another example. I just pulled up this article. I just did a quick little Google search. Hillary Clinton puts lesbian rumors to bed, never even been tempted. Contrary to what you may hear, I actually like men. Um, mm, look into that. What I can say with certainty is that her marriage to Bill Clinton was absolutely 100% an arranged political marriage. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. All the evidence points to that. I mean, that's known at this point. The only question is, well, that's not really even a question either. We definitely know that Bill Clinton was attracted to basically any woman except for Hillary, and I don't blame him on that one bit. Again, another very troubled marriage, and I use that word marriage in air quotes here, because it's essentially a fake marriage in appearance only for the sake of public appearances. That's really what's going on here. We could talk about this lady and her connection to Hillary Clinton. But I think you get the gist of where I'm going with this. I do want to mention this guy, Klaus Schwab, chairperson of the World Economic Forum, which is another organization that's being used to usher in this globalism. This guy is one of the so-called elites who rule over us. And I don't know if you've ever seen this before, the Bride of Satan picture. I've censored this because it's disgusting. This is Klaus Schwab on the beach. This is the so-called Bride of Satan photo, and this demented old satanic pervert is here in dressed up in that. And it is a picture that uncensored, you see I've put the little box there. It's not really fit to look at otherwise without that there. And yeah, now that I've shown it to you, I will probably delete it from my computer. But you get the gist of what I'm saying here. And like I said, if you hadn't heard this before, follow the breadcrumbs. Um, I didn't consent to be ruled over by these people. I do not consent with their agenda. I do not consent with the direction that they are taking my country and society and trying to take the world. And there's going to come a time, how do I put this? Sometimes a physical resistance will be necessary. And that is not that we are trying to build a perfect kingdom on earth that's a substitute for God's kingdom. Don't get me wrong about that. But there does come a time and a place where self defense and physical resistance against evil is necessary. And I believe that time is coming. I hope you're getting ready for it because More and more of this evil is going to come to light. Uh, a lot has been disclosed already if you're even slightly paying attention to what's going on around you. And more disclosure is forthcoming. Things that, well, I've given you enough to go on. If this is a topic that interests you at all, I hope it has been interesting. All right, well, have a good one.